YouTube channel. So you can go on Drive YouTube, subscribe. And then question. Okay, options to attack from shin to shin guard. All right, let's start with that one. Joey. Joey does not have a gi on, okay? So we're gonna wing it no gi. All right, like that. Let's see if that works. There we go. Options to attack from shin to shin. All right. So since Joey is no-gi, we're going to start with a no-gi version. Okay. So when Joey's standing, the shin to shin guard is a reaction to Joey trying to knee cut, right? Like anytime he's here, he has the option of not only sit on my leg by butt flopping or back stepping, but he also has the option of knee cutting that way, right? So I limit both those options if I have this guy right here, because the second he starts knee cutting, I can raise his leg off the ground. It puts him off balance, right? Same thing if he starts. He doesn't, not only does he not have this leg when he back steps, but he's actually giving me the back when he does that because he can't control that leg, so he wouldn't go there. So this is one very important detail when I'm playing this sort of game is I have to bring his knee to my chest. Like I can't just be here. I have to be tight. I really want to bring that knee to my chest. I can even like touch my ear to the inside of his leg here, just be close, and not give him a whole bunch of space to work with. But just this tightness right here creates a lot of options. I'll give you one of my favorite options from here. It's very simple. It's almost like silly. It's so simple. It's just like I've swept a lot of people over the years with it. All right. So this is what I'm going to be doing. When I pull him, I just switched sides there, Joey, so you can see the other side. This is where I'm going to be, right? When I pull Joey, he takes that step. I didn't ask him to take that step. He just naturally took that step because it's the only thing he can do. What else is he going to do? When he takes that step, what I'm going to do is I'm going to dive with my head in between his legs. I'm going to bite the back of his heel here with my right leg. So I'm going to have the same leg trapped. So both my legs are trapped in this leg, and my hand's going to go on the outside of his heel. So if I'm in here, he steps back, I pull, and I dive in. So when it's almost like shooting a double from, or like a low single from my butt, but I'm able to come up faster because I'm going to have both his legs under control. So I'm going to be here. Just in case he's leaning really far back, like further back, I can always like kick him in the butt, and I have the same result. He steps, and now I rock my weight back forward. I kick my right leg forward, and I come up with that momentum, right, to put him on his butt. It's actually even easier than it looks, everyone. By the way, if you are already stepping, I don't have to rock him. I can just grab the heel and go. Is it that normally they're stepping too far away for me to reach? And I don't want to lose my surprise element. So what I do is I rock him, right? I try to pull him on top of me, forcing him to find his balance. I take him down by grabbing and taking the ankle. Okay? Very simple. All right, guys. Butterfly sweep details. All right, let's do that. Some butterfly. Okay. Butterfly, actually, just some fundamentals here before I just give you a second, Joey. Some fundamentals here on the butterfly, everyone. Think of a butterfly as like a little tiny shell. Like you don't want it to open. The second it starts to open, you got giving your opponent a lot of options. So not only do I bring my feet in, I bring my knees to my chest. It's very important. Generally speaking, I'm going to have my arms on the inside because it's safer, especially if your opponent's trying to pass your guard. You don't want him leaping for that kimura. But when I'm playing butterfly, I like to go for overhooks, so my arms are over. Now, most people, when they learn the butterfly, they learn underhooks. The problem with the underhook is that when I'm in here, Joey knows exactly where I'm going. There's no surprise here. Like he knows that I want to sweep him that way. And that's pretty much my only option here other than maybe coming up. But he knows what's happening here. It's very obvious. And not only that, he's not likely to want to move forward here. The second I get this underhook, he wants to move back because moving forward makes no sense. He wouldn't do that. When I go overhook, now they're inviting. Joey wants to engage. He wants to try to pass, right? Not only that, it's less obvious where I'm going because if I have two overhooks, like which way am I going? I can go left or right. So I'm a little bit less predictable. I can also set up omoplatas and triangles from here, right? So that's why I prefer overhooks. In the gi, I always grab the belt, right? No gi, I cup the triceps, right? It's very important that I do this. I just trap the wrist. I relax, nothing. When I'm ready to go, I got to get that bite right there. You can also do this. I do this a lot of times, like kind of like forearm deep, not elbow deep, forearm deep. And I load him on top of me. And I bring him on top of me with my knees. Right? And then I'm pushing off the bottom leg to sweep. That's a very common mistake that people make is that they think that this leg's supposed to kick. And this leg is only part of the sweep. Most of your power is going to come from the bottom leg. Right? So a good way to learn how to use the butterfly is to just shift your weight. Kick 1, 2, back to the middle. Kick 1, 2, back to the middle. 1, 2, back of the middle. So always kick off the bottom leg, and then I follow with the top leg. So it's not that I don't use the top leg. It's just that the top leg follows the bottom leg. Most people emphasize the bottom leg practically exclusively, the top leg. And the bottom one is where most of your power is going to come from. So when you are practicing butterfly, always make sure you emphasize the bottom leg. That's the really important one. A mistake people make when they're practicing this, look at my right knee. They do this right here. See how my knee's on the ground? Look where my hips are height-wise. Even if I kick, look at my height now. Now look what happens when I raise my heel off the ground. You see how much taller I am? And the closer I bring this foot to my butt, the more height I gain, right? So I get a little more, a lot more power from my butterfly if I execute it that way, okay? All right, team, next question. All right, guys, why is the other guy not wearing pajamas? It's a good question. Joey, why aren't you wearing pajamas? O grande abraço, Santa Bárbara do Oeste. Abraço aí, pessoal de Santa Bárbara do Oeste. Okay, all right. How can you use a wall or cage to help you get up? All right, this is actually functional not only for MMA, it's also functional for self-defense. A lot of times when I teach self-defense, which is not very often, but I do have a different perspective on it. One thing I do emphasize a lot is, where are you fighting? Are you in a close quarters or open quarters? So they're very different. It's one thing to fight someone in a football field, and it's something completely different to fight someone in a tight bar, right? If there's going to be obstacles in front of you, you have to factor these things in. How many people are you fighting, right? What sort of environment are you in? It's just like a family dinner that went wrong, or you're in a very, very dangerous situation where people probably have guns and knives. So you have to learn how to factor all these things in. And one of the things that you have to factor into the equation, and this has nothing to do with jiu-jitsu, this is just quick thinking, right? Analyzing your environment, is what's behind you. So the wall is something that you do use not only for MMA, but also for, in a real situation, you have to learn what's behind you, because it does make a difference. But to answer your question, I'm going to drag can you bring the computer for me, Joey? Try to keep it exactly how it is. Try not to drop it. All right. Okay, so when I'm standing up. All right, a lot of times when I'm here, my fighters always listen to me say abort. Like, abort means stop doing what you're doing, stop playing guard, and put your back against the wall. The problem with playing guard close to a wall, a cage, is that you can't sprint. So your guard is pretty much useless. It's a tough spot to be in. Now, can you do something? Yeah, there's always something you can do. Joey's already, I can see the wheels turning. Like, I can do this, I can do that. Some people got good close guards, and they can actually attack in really bad spots. It's not the norm. Generally speaking, you want to have your back against the wall, because with your back against the wall, I can stand up, right? So Joey, come here. Try to hold me down. Except Joey just took me down, right? So I don't want to go this way because I'm giving him the back, right? That's not what I'm looking for. So I'm going to go with the wizard, right? The wizard really is a good friend. Now, here's the catch. Even with the wizard, he will get my back. So when I'm standing up, I have to, at the same time I create space for me to stand up, I have to push myself against the wall. The key word here is patience. The good news, and for MMA purposes, the good news here is patience favors me, not Joey. Joey, because the referee will stop us, right? If it gets boring, the crowd starts booing, the referee will stop us. Whereas for me, that would work in my favor. I'm underneath him. But long story short, I have to press my back against the wall, right? So I have to put, like right now, both my butt cheeks are touching the wall. That means that Joey can't get behind me. Now, if I were here, I already see him creating space to get behind me, right? Which is one thing that when we're attacking back, I emphasize a lot, is trying to create space between your opponent and the wall. What he wants to do is get me off the wall so he can sneak himself behind me. On my end, defensively, I have to press my back against the wall and be very patient. So if Joey tries to hold me down there, I'm just going to very all right? Now, if you watch the UFC, most people, when they stand up in a hurry, right? The corner goes, stand up, right? That's as if that were good instruction. Of course, you got to stand up, but, you know, there's a way to do it. Most people expose the back. That's why you see guys that are good grapplers are able to get the back a lot on the fence, because people don't know how to stand up, squaring up, facing them, or how to play guard. They only know how to stand up by doing this. That explains a lot of, like, Damian Maia's success in the cage, Khabib's success in the cage. And if you watch them, they don't want to hold you down. They want you to give the back. So they'll let you up, but on their terms. So if you're the aggressor, my recommendation is always let them stand up, but on your terms. You're controlling the way they stand up. Because being on top of someone in the cage is not a great way to do damage. It's a great way to win the round. You can win the round by holding them down. But it really isn't that great of a position to do damage. It's very overrated, if you ask me. You're much better off on your opponent's back where you can actually put them away. Okay? All right, we got more questions. Questions are coming now. All right. When you did a seminar here in Oregon, you showed some details with the guillotine from the guard and no-gi. Can you show me the same thing with the gi? Billy, I am not sure I remember those details because guillotine's a big category. I think I know what I showed you, but I don't know for sure. What I'm going to focus on is, first thing I'm going to say, I'm not a big fan of the guillotine in the gi. Why? Too much cloth. Too much. And his neck, same thing, collar in the way. Meaning that for me to get a tight noose around his neck, right? For me to get that tight noose is going to be a lot harder. So the gi gets in the way a lot. Does that mean I can't do a guillotine? No, you can. It's like a north-south. You know, it's a little bit hard to get that adjustment. There's a reason why you see a lot more north-souths in no-gi and a lot more guillotines in no-gi than you do see in the gi, because the gi actually gets in the way, makes it a little bit harder to choke, but still doable. So let's go over some fundamentals here with the guillotine. Generally speaking, I am not a huge fan of the closed guard guillotine, even though I have used it in the past. One thing I'm always emphasizing is open guard. So both my legs will be on the same side. I have one foot here. This is blocking Joey from clearing the legs on that side where he would like to be. If Joey manages to clear the legs and he moves around, he has side control. I don't have a guillotine. Go back. So I have to block him with one leg. To augment that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to block his lower back with my left leg. I'm trying to get my left foot on his heel, and I'm going to push him away when I'm ready to finish. So this is what I call an open guard guillotine. I also like it because if you're in competition, right, and let's say he just scores a double on me, just took me down, I go for that guillotine, and he pulls his head out. What is that? That's 2 points. If he pulls his head out of that guillotine, that's 2 points, right? He holds me down for 3 seconds. I have 3 seconds to scramble. Look how quick that is. Back to my knees, and he doesn't score the points on me. So I can risk the guillotine, right? If I get it, I win. If I don't, I'll get an advantage for the guillotine. I can stand back up. Maybe he'll get an advantage for the takedown. Probably not, right? And we go back to fighting versus being underneath him and allowing him to score 2 points. For these reasons, and for the fact that it's harder for him to put me flat on my back, I prefer the open guard guillotine. So if I'm flat on my back, the problem with being here is that I end up squeezing. And no matter how much I turn here and close guard, if Joey walks me to the other side, he's always going to be able to put me flat on my back. And then the flatter I am on my back, the less mechanical the guillotine becomes, the more squeezing dependent it becomes, right? There's less technique, there's less adjustment. So the open guard guillotine, I have the luxury of being able to stay on my side no matter what. See, I'm always on my side. So if Joey tries to push me to the other side, I got both my legs locking him in place. It's a very important thing, and it's very counterintuitive. But gravity is pulling me down. I make an enormous effort to keep my shoulder up high. So when I connect the guillotine, no matter where I connect it, I have a reference point. I block the back of his neck with my shoulder. The guillotine is not this. The guillotine is this right here. Okay? So my arm turns into a V. A better description of a guillotine would not be guillotine, would be spike, right? Because you're not going flat onto the neck like a guillotine would. You're going in like this with your wrists. So when I go for a guillotine, this is what I'm doing. My elbow goes down, my shoulder goes up, and my wrist goes in. This is what I'm doing. I'm not doing this. This is actually not a good guillotine because it's all squeeze. This is an arm guillotine. A technical guillotine uses mechanics, and that means my wrist is going to go into the neck, my elbow is going to drop, and my shoulder goes high. In all my years in jiu-jitsu, I've never seen anyone pull their head out this way. They always pulled their head out where? This way. So that's why my shoulder can't go level with my arm. Right? It creates space when they pull their head out. I got to raise my shoulder as much as possible as I push my wrist into the neck. What that does, it makes an effortless guillotine. So I can't see the back of his neck. If this right here starts happening, when I go down and I disconnect, I'll lose the head. And it's very difficult for me to regain it. Okay? It's very difficult for me to bring myself back up because I already went down. So once I go down, it's very hard to fix. Go back. So when I'm in the guillotine, I want to keep my shoulder up high. I lock and I pinch. Look at my elbow. I pull his head into my lap, right? And I keep my shoulder very high. Very important. I don't let this happen. You got to resist the temptation of going down. And then when I go on my side, I'm very much on my side. Okay? That's what makes a mechanical guillotine, right? So it's not, there's no squeezing involved. Once again, I am not against squeezing. I think that a mistake people make, that squeezing is always bad. Squeezing is no bueno. Sometimes you got to squeeze to win. There's nothing wrong with using a little muscle if you have to in order to win. You got to do what you got to do. With that being said, there is an easier, more intelligent way of doing it, okay? So once again, elbow goes down, shoulder goes up, wrist goes in. Make an effort to stay on your side. Make an effort to have the shoulder covering the back of his neck. If I can see the back of his neck, that means he can pull his head out. Okay? All right. What makes jiu-jitsu so much different than other sports? Why do people gas out so easily with BJJ, but can run marathons or do high amounts of CrossFit? Because it's more competitive. Like, marathons are long, right? You do get tired from a marathon, but it's long. You know, jiu-jitsu is like things like wrestling, MMA, jiu-jitsu. Many other sports are like this. It's a different kind of conditioning, right? It's a little more intense. It's a little more like a sprint. So think of a hybrid between a sprint and a marathon, right? This is a 400-meter race. What's the next one after that? Is it 800? Someone like an 800-meter race. So you got to be fast, but you can't be. If you go too fast in the first half, you're not going to make it to the end. You're going to gas out, right? So you gotta control and manage your gas tank, which is different for everyone. Not just based off how much you train, based off of your, even like genetics, like everything. All right. Hi, Keith here from Belleville, Illinois. I have a two-part question. How do you set up Coyote Guard, and how do you use it to attack for sweep, submission, or control? It's funny, we did that this morning. Come here. So what I'm going to do here is one thing. Actually, it's easier if I go on just turn. I'm going to have my back towards you guys. I should do it like this. I think you guys will see it if we do it this way. I just want to set up some details. When I'm in guard here, first thing, a lot of times Joey's going to hide this foot underneath his butt, right? And it's difficult for me to get that bite with the outside leg because there's nothing there. So what I'll do is I'll push that foot out with my inside leg, and then I bite. When I bite, I pull it really hard, really hard, really hard until like that right there normally happens, right? His foot pops on top of my calf. And that's what I'm going to say. Actually, we did this yesterday, not this morning. We did this yesterday. So someone asked the same question. So we'll go over it again. And at the same time I'm sitting, I'll show you guys a little trick here to sit up on the half guard. Just underneath. So after I tweak, I'm going to go wrist and elbow. I go wrist and elbow. I'm going to move this arm across. When I pull his arm across, what's Joey's natural reaction? Now, he can either go across and I'm going to go to his back, which never happens. Normally, like, what would be your natural reaction? He resists. He doesn't want to come forward. So what am I doing? I'm doing this, pulling back, like resist, resist, resist. And I'm able to sit up. It's a modified arm drag. His resistance of pulling me back and going rigid helps me sit up into the underhook. At the same time I'm digging the underhook, what am I doing? I'm tweaking his knee to the outside. So I look at this almost like a knee bar, like an illegal knee bar. And when I get this right here, I'm able to, so this is one, I could sit up here as well. Like as I tweak the knee, I could sit up with my left arm on the leg. I don't do this because there's too much room for him to re-pummel here. So I come up with my hand, looks like I'm putting my hand in my pocket, and then I turn it into a single, and then I can grab the lower back if that's what I want. A very important detail here, sir. And this is one thing that I always like to emphasize because not a lot of people talk about this, is that people here think about hiding their neck. I'm going to protect my neck, and that's how they get guillotine endorsed, by protecting their neck. What I think about doing is driving my ear into his chest. Right? You can grab the lower back if you want. Generally speaking, I prefer the leg, but depending on what you're trying to do, it makes sense to grab the lower back, and I press my head against his chest. So when Joey starts moving around now, it doesn't matter where he goes, I'm quick to follow, right? I feel him move with my head because there's tension between my head and his chest instead of watching him move. So I stay very tight, and Joey starts moving around with me. Look, I'm on him, right? It's like quicksand. The more he moves, the tighter I'm going to get. So those are some very important details on that half guard, is that you develop the ability not only to sit up, but tweak the knee like you want to break it. You're not gonna, because they can always look away. So it's a legal reap. All right, we talked about this yesterday. And make sure your ear is pressed against the chest. Make sure your head is up. You want to avoid this right here. I'm going to protect my neck. This is not protecting your neck. He's in front of me. If he were on my back, this is protecting the neck. Because he's in front of me, this is protecting my neck. because his attack is going to be normally a darce or a guillotine, and I'm much better off with my head up than my head down. If you think this right here will cover you from a guillotine, you've never been guillotined before. This will not stop a guillotine. This right here will. Okay, it's the opposite of what you want. Okay. What competitions would you suggest for Canadians to prioritize for the most experience, considering travel costs? It depends what skill level. You know, if you feel like ready for a bigger challenge, obviously the bigger ones like the Pans, the Worlds, Nogi Worlds, Masters Worlds, those would be the ones I'd be investing in. There's going to be a lot more competition. They're going to be a lot harder to win. But again, they're more meaningful. But if you're just getting your feet wet, maybe the best option is like a open. But you have plenty of those in Canada too. So you can get a lot of experience in Canada. And when you do really well in those and you feel you're ready for a bigger challenge, and then you come out to to Vegas or LA for like a bigger tournament. Okay. All right. Sensei, how do you get – I'm not used to being called sensei, by the way, but thank you. I like the sound of it. Sensei, how do you set up triangle from the mount without having roll into the floor? I actually do normally roll to the floor, but you can't finish it from mount. The problem with the triangle from mount is that sometimes it's hard to lock from mount. Not impossible, just a little bit harder. That's why I normally roll, but it depends on how confident you are with that triangle. Let me just back this out a little bit here. All right, Joey. I'm going to mount Joey. I'll show you a very simple setup that I like. You know, obviously mobility is going to play a role here, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to isolate that arm on my lower back. Hopefully he'll hug it. I used to do this a lot in MMA because in MMA, people actually do grab your lower back. They do that all the time. Like, I think it's the dumbest thing in the world. The only thing this right here makes sense is if you've got 10 seconds left on the clock and you just want to survive and you're really tired and you just don't want to get punched too much, that makes sense. But it's not an escape, right? And it's like once I get my forearm, like that will beat his face every time. But I do cut a corner, you know, so you guys notice that my right knee even leaves the ground when I do this. So I go here. My knee comes off the ground a little bit. If he went underneath it, he'd be helping me. Does everyone see the triangle? So they normally don't. They normally keep this arm really tight because they see the triangle. So what I do is I get my hand here and I lean. I can even help with my left hand. So if I'm here, I keep his head off the ground. One reason I like to keep his head off the ground is it's harder for him to bridge. His bridge is more functional if his head goes on the mats. If I take his head off the mats, it's not that he can't bridge, but his bridge is very limited, right? So I'm going to go here. So try to get your arm in tight. And I just pin it against the ground. I come forward, pin it against the ground. Notice that his arm remains isolated, and I'm biting that outside arm, his right arm, with my body weight. So my lat presses it into my leg. And now I'm going to go like this. I just feed it over his arm. Mobility here is important. If you lack mobility and flexibility, this may be a little difficult. You might be able to go like that, but there's a good chance he's going to catch my foot when I do that. So the best way to do this is open it and go on the inside. All right. And now this is where I adjust my triangle, and then I can finish. All right. The arm is right there too. All right. Wrist lock. 1, 2, out. Yeah. You have all the options. I'll do it one more time. Here. Bring your arm in. Look at that. You see I go in front of his shoulder and behind my arm, just like that. No, and this is where I adjust. Right? I lean, I post on my right hand, and I adjust that triangle. All right. If you got to finish quickly, there's always the option of going for the arm from here as well, just in case you got little time on the clock. That's an option as well. Okay. Hands, I think, is definitely a reality. Masters Worlds, I think they may not have it this year. I think there's a good chance it's not going to take place. I don't know. But Pans, I think next year we'll be back on our feet. And life is going to suck if we're not. But let's be hopeful, okay? All right. What do you like to do when you get to the dogfight position? Very good question. Well, the dogfight, I'm going to take my gi off for this one. Just easier to explain without the gi. It's not going to make a difference. All right, so the dogfight is a big category, obviously. It's not – there's a lot of things we can do. There's one that I've been playing with more and more other than the basic ones that I think that is probably the strongest position. Come here, Joey. So the dogfight is me coming up from half guard, right? And I get in here, and then I try to come up. Joey gets heavy on that whizzer, and we end up in this position. This is what we call a dogfight. So I push into Joey with the underhook, and he pushes back into me with the whizzer, right? We get stuck. We create really here is an arch, right? The beginning of the arch is my right arm. The end of the arch is his left arm. We're connected, right? Notice that I do have his ankle here, and his ankle's on top of my calf. If his ankle were on the floor, I have less control. So sometimes if this happens, I'll even stop. I'll grab the ankle, I'll place it, and I'll go back because I want that his ankle resting on my calf for this one. The more tension here, right, the more I can create. So I have to create tension. You can't be too relaxed here. One option is, you guys know this from wrestling, is I go limp arm, very relaxed. The best way to execute a limp arm is not to try to go shortcut, but really pretend that your arm fell off and then you swing it around. The more relaxed you are, the faster you're going to be. But a lot of people don't fall for that. So one thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to replace my right hand with my right foot, right? So instead of being a square, knee, knee, hand, hand, it's going to be a triangle. It's going to be hand, knee, and foot. That frees up my right hand. And I'm going to go for a body lock. We're going to turn here a little bit so you guys can see what I'm doing. So I'm pushing off my right leg. I connect the body lock, and I press my ear against his chest. So my head is part of the technique, even though by itself it doesn't do much. I am pressing off my right leg. I am sucking his body into me with the body lock. And here's the most important part, is the last one I'm going to give you guys. I got to tweak this knee. So when I rotate, I go in an anti-clockwise. I'm going a circle. I'm not going in the linear way. I'm pulling that knee out. All right? As I sweep Joey. Or take him down, depending on where it started. But it's important that I pull that knee and I emphasize the circular motion. A lot of you guys get stuck trying to take him down with the body lock, and the body lock is part of the technique. Don't trust the body lock by itself. The body lock is not that strong, people. You got to tweak the knee and then the body lock works, okay? But emphasis on the rotation, on the circling. I'll do it one more time. I got to pull that knee out. All right. Replace my hand with my right foot, because if I don't, he's going to throw me on my face, and then I have to let go of the body lock. So I go here, body lock. So I have to pivot off my left knee. I drive off my right foot. I am using the body lock. I'm driving my head, but I pivot off my left knee to keep that circular motion going. All right, next question. Which martial arts is this? That's a tough one, man. You don't even know what martial art we're doing. We'll skip that one. All right. Out of all the camps and teams you ever trained, what you like most from each team? To me, the best ones were the energy. For good training, it was Tedede back in the day. It was really good training, even though the energy wasn't always great. For energy, we had good training, really good chemistry and energy and everything at Braza. That was a very good moment too. But let me see what else. Yeah, I mean, I think that those probably, we had really good time. I had a good time at Maromba and Indaiatuba when I was a purple belt. We used to travel every weekend for tournaments. It was a lot of fun. It was good training too. So many good moments. All right. All right. What else, guys? Give me more questions. We're almost done here. We don't have a whole bunch of time left. Any questions before I go? All right, one more here. Okay, what you guys will do? Okay, when we'll be up and going again? We're waiting on the government announcement. I think we got another week maybe. It's hard to say because it's not up to me. But my guess is another week or two max, and we'll be back in business. Hard to say, guys. No one really knows, but I think the world has had it, and we should be back to work soon. When do you think the U.S. reopens? I'm guessing July. I hear that Europe is opening in May, so I'm guessing U.S. June, maybe July. Hard to say. But we have domestic flights. We haven't stopped, but international flights, maybe another month or two. Favorite opponent and why? I had an opponent called Soluço, Fernando Di Pierro. He teaches in Ecuador now. He's a very good friend of mine now, but we fought each other 10 times. He's a very good judoka. He's very good at judo. So the fight I would always pull guard on him, and I'd beat him on advantage or whatever, sweep or whatever. He's very, strong judoka. We fought 10 times, and I mostly beat him. The one time he beat me, he pulled guard. So he's always making fun of me because the judo guy pulls guard on me. It's like the one time he beats me by pulling guard. But never forgiven myself for that. He's a very good friend of mine. And we would fight each other a lot because we're in the same weight class. So we fight in the weight class in the open pretty much every tournament we went to. I fought him at least 10 times, at least. But it was like a fun rivalry. At the time, it was more of a rivalry. Now it's just a good memory. But yeah. Good guy, too. He's in Ecuador if you ever stop by in Ecuador. All right. Okay, so yeah, I'm hoping to see you guys soon. Guys, we will reopen soon. We will be doing more Q&A. Today's Tuesday. We're going to be doing Wednesdays and Thursdays as well, 5 p.m. We'll be back with more questions. Ask me, guys. Think of something you guys want to learn, something that you guys feel is necessary. It could be a technical question, anything you guys want to do. I did give you guys some details there on the shin to shin, on the half guard. Guys, unless you actually absorb it, you're just wasting your time, right? You're supposed to be trying this. So if you have mats at home, if you have a training partner with you, practice it a little bit. Make sure you understand it. I always say this only because it's really important. Visualization is a big part of what we do. Visualizing helps you absorb the information. You have to make an enormous effort to move away from your comfort zone and do new things. What are the things that you're not good at? That's the stuff you got to focus on, where we have this like laser-like focus on the things that we're good at. You know, it takes an enormous amount of discipline to try to new things all the time and not be scared of failing, right? So when someone gives you new information, whether it's me, your instructor, or something you saw online, you know, make sure you give that a go and you always try new tools, okay? Love you guys. Stay healthy, and I will see you guys again mañana, 5 p.m.